I stared at my reflection in the elevator's polished doors, adjusting my designer blazer one last time. Tonight's family dinner wasn't just another awkward gathering, it was the calm before the storm they never saw coming. The doors opened to the exclusive restaurant's 45th floor, where my family was already seated at their usual table. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city lights twinkled like stars, oblivious to the drama about to unfold. "Alexandra, you're late." "As usual." My mother's voice cut through the air, sharp as a knife. Next to her, my sister Victoria smirked, perfectly manicured fingers wrapped around a glass of expensive wine. "Traffic," I said simply, taking my seat. The truth was I'd spent the last hour in my office, finalizing the paperwork that would change everything. "At least you made an effort to dress properly this time," Dad commented, eyeing my outfit with his usual disapproval. "Though God knows how you afforded it on a secretary's salary." I bit back a smile. They still thought I was working as an executive assistant at some small firm. It was amazing how easily people believe what they want to believe. "Speaking of success," Victoria chimed in, "I just closed another major deal for the company. Daddy, we're looking at a 40% increase in revenue this quarter." Our family business, Harrison Technologies, had been my father's pride and joy for 30 years. Now it was Victoria's playground, or so they thought. "That's my girl." Dad beamed, raising his glass. "To the future CEO of Harrison Technologies." "Meanwhile," Mom added, giving me a pointed look, "your sister still hasn't figured out how to make something of herself." I took a sip of water, letting their words wash over me. 5 years ago their constant criticism would have crushed me. 5 years ago I was still trying to prove myself worthy of the family name. "You know, Alexandra," Victoria leaned forward, her voice dripping with fake concern, "I could probably find you a better position at the company. Maybe in the mail room? You'd have to work your way up, of course, but—" "That's generous of you, Vicky," Dad nodded approvingly. "Though she'd probably mess that up too. Remember when she tried to pitch that ridiculous expansion plan 3 years ago?" "Ah, yes. The expansion plan. The one they'd laughed at, dismissed as naive, and then watched Victoria present the exact same ideas 6 months later to thunderous applause. "You're nothing but a failure," Dad continued, his words carrying the weight of years of disappointment. "While your sister runs our company brilliantly, you can't even hold down a decent job." Mom nodded in agreement. "At least we have one daughter we can be proud of." The waiter arrived with our appetizers, providing a brief reprieve from their ongoing critique of my life choices. Victoria launched into another story about her latest business triumph, while our parents hung on every word. I checked my phone discreetly. A message from my lawyer. "Everything's ready. Documents filed." Perfect timing. "Actually," I said, reaching into my bag, "I wanted to discuss something about the company." Victoria rolled her eyes. "Please don't tell me you're pitching another one of your amateur ideas." I pulled out a thick envelope and placed it on the table. "No, Vicky. I'm here to discuss the acquisition." "Acquisition?" Dad frowned. "What acquisition?" "The one that was finalized an hour ago." I slid the papers toward them. "You should really read the fine print of those investment offers you've been accepting for the past 2 years." Victoria grabbed the documents, her face growing paler with each page she turned. Mom leaned over her shoulder, confusion turning to horror as she read. This can't be right," Victoria stammered. But it was. Every perfectly legal detail laid out in black and white. For the past 2 years, I'd been quietly buying shares through my holding company Phoenix Enterprises. The same company that now owned 51% of Harrison Technologies. "You." Dad's voice was barely a whisper. "You're the CEO of Phoenix Enterprises?" I smiled, savoring the moment I'd worked 5 years for. "About that company you think Victoria runs so brilliantly." The silence that fell over our table was deafening. Victoria's perfectly manicured nails crumpled the acquisition papers as her hands trembled. Mom's wine glass remained frozen halfway to her lips, while Dad's face had turned an alarming shade of red. "This is impossible," he finally sputtered. "Phoenix Enterprises. That's a multi-billion-dollar company. They've been buying up tech firms across 3 continents." I took another sip of water, enjoying their confusion. "Remember when I left after you rejected my expansion plan? When Victoria conveniently presented the same ideas 6 months later? That was my work." Victoria snapped, but her voice wavered slightly. Was it? I raised an eyebrow. Or did Johnson from R&D hand you those reports? The same Johnson who's been feeding you brilliant ideas for the past 3 years. Victoria's face paled further. Johnson had been my inside connection, carefully placed to monitor the company's operations while feeding Victoria exactly what she wanted, a chance to look successful. Johnson works for you, she whispered. Half your executive team works for me, Vicky. Did you really think you were coming up with all those innovative strategies on your own? Mom found her voice, though it shook with anger. You've been spying on us? Your own family? No, Mother. I've been protecting my investment. The same way you've been protecting the family legacy by giving everything to Victoria. I pulled out another document from my bag. Speaking of legacy, let's talk about the Morton contract Victoria's so proud of closing last week. Dad grabbed the paper, his eyes widening as he read. This shows the deal's actually losing us money. But Victoria said what her assistant told her to say. I cut in. She never actually reads the fine print, does she? Too busy taking credit for other people's work. Victoria stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. Several heads turned our way, but she didn't notice. You're lying. All of this is just some elaborate trick. Check your phone, I said calmly. The press release should be going out right now. As if on cue, all their phones began buzzing with notifications. Headlines flashed across screens. Phoenix Enterprises acquires Harrison Technologies. Tech World's rising star expands portfolio. Alexandra Harrison, the silent giant behind Phoenix Enterprises. 5 years, I continued, my voice steady. 5 years of building something from nothing. No family connections, no inherited wealth, just pure hard work. The kind you never thought I was capable of. Why? Dad's voice was hoarse. Why do this? Because you never gave me a chance. You handed everything to Victoria without question. When I tried to earn my place, you mocked me, dismissed me, called me worthless. I stood up, smoothing my blazer. The board meeting is tomorrow at 9 a.m. I expect all financial records to be ready for review. And Victoria. I turned to my sister, who had sunk back into her chair looking shell-shocked. Clear out your office by noon. Johnson will be taking over as COO. You can't do this, Mom protested weakly. We're family. Family. I laughed softly. You lost the right to play that card years ago. Now if you'll excuse me, I have an empire to run. I turned to leave but paused. Oh, and Dad, remember what you said about my blazer? You're right, it was expensive. But when you own one of the fastest growing tech companies in the world, you can afford the best. As I walked toward the elevator, I could feel their stares burning into my back. But for the first time in my life, their opinion didn't matter. I had built something they thought impossible, achieved success they couldn't imagine, and now they worked for me. The elevator doors opened and I stepped in, catching one last glimpse of their shocked faces before the doors closed. My phone buzzed, another message from my lawyer. Board members notified. Everything proceeding as planned. I smiled. This was just the beginning. The next morning I arrived at Harrison Technologies, my company now, at precisely 8:30 a.m. The lobby buzzed with nervous energy as employees whispered among themselves, stealing glances my way. News travels fast in the corporate world. My heels clicked against the marble floor as I walked to what used to be Victoria's office. Through the glass walls, I could see her frantically shoving items into boxes, her perfect hair now disheveled, her designer dress wrinkled. Need help? I asked, leaning against the doorframe. She whirled around, mascara smeared under her eyes. Come to gloat. Actually, I came to give you this. I handed her an envelope. She opened it, confusion crossing her face. A job offer? Entry-level position at Phoenix's development department. No special treatment, no shortcuts. Just a chance to prove yourself. The chance I never got. Why would you do this? She whispered. Because unlike you, I actually earned my success. I know the value of starting from the bottom. Before she could respond, commotion erupted outside. Our parents had arrived and they weren't alone. Dad was with his longtime friend and company lawyer, Martin. This acquisition is illegal. Dad thundered, waving papers around. Martin found irregularities in the paperwork. I smiled, pulling out my phone. Martin, how's your daughter's tech startup doing? He froze, color draining from his face. The one Phoenix Enterprises just saved from bankruptcy? I continued. It would be a shame if that investment fell through. I may have been hasty in my review, Martin stammered, backing away from Dad. The acquisition appears completely legal. Mom stepped forward, trying a different approach. Sweetie, we can work this out as a family. Maybe we could dash. Stop. My voice was quiet but firm. For 27 years, you never treated me like family. I was the disappointment, the failure, the worthless daughter. Well, guess what? That worthless daughter now controls everything you built. I turned to address the gathering crowd of employees. There will be changes, but not the kind you fear. No mass layoffs, no budget cuts. Instead, we're implementing the expansion plan I proposed 3 years ago, the one that would have doubled your salaries and benefits. Murmurs of approval spread through the office. Victoria slumped in her chair, realizing how many opportunities she'd wasted. One more thing, I added. Johnson. My loyal inside man stepped forward, holding more documents. These are the records of every idea Victoria stole, every project she took credit for, every bonus she claimed for others' work. The board might find them interesting. You're destroying our family, Dad said, his voice breaking. No, Dad. You did that years ago. I'm just building something better from the ruins. That afternoon I sat in my new office looking out over the city. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Dinner tonight? We should talk. Victoria. I considered it for a moment before replying. Starting salary includes lunch allowance. Use it. Welcome to earning your way. Another message, this time from Mom. We were wrong about you. So wrong. Please give us another chance. I left it unread. The sun was setting when Johnson knocked on my door. The board approved all your proposals. We start implementing changes next week. Perfect. I smiled, standing up. Oh, and Johnson, make sure Victoria starts in customer service. Everyone should know what it's like to work their way up. As I gathered my things to leave, I caught my reflection in the window. No longer the invisible daughter, the family failure. Now I was Alexandra Harrison, CEO of Phoenix Enterprises and Harrison Technologies. Success, I've learned, isn't just about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. I stepped into the elevator, remembering last night's dinner. They thought they were untouchable, that their positions were secure. They never saw me coming. But that's the thing about success. It doesn't announce itself. It builds quietly, patiently, until one day you're sitting at a family dinner thinking you're at the top, and suddenly you realize you're working for the daughter you called worthless.